But I wanted to talk to a guy that's got his hand right on the pulse. He's right in the middle of it. He worked over 190 playoff games in the NBA during his NBA career as a referee. And now he's an analyst. He's a rules analyst for ESPN, the broadcasts. He's a friend of the show. Let's go to the Toms River Volkswagen Sports Hotline and welcome into the locker room former NBA official Steve Javie. Steve, welcome into the locker room.
Hey, thanks, Billy. How's everything at the shore, brother?
I'll tell you what, Steve. We got you when you next time you get down here. We got to go out.
I'm in, brother. Count me in.
Steve, I watched the game on the Sixers game on Thursday, and I got pumped up. And I just had to call. I wanted to call you. I was like, all the banging going on. I said, you know what? Let me call Steve because he was in the middle of that. You worked over 190 playoff games, so you know what it's all about. But Steve, I got my blood pumped up. I was all pumped up. That was like a hockey game Thursday night.
It's funny you say that, Billy. I had it on too, watching it, and I turned to my wife and I said, I really haven't missed being on the court that much, but this time of year, and you have games like that, I looked at her and I said, I would love to be refereeing that game right now because it just had everything, Billy. The play was great. The intensity was up. There was some chippiness, and even that people don't realize officials are competitive also, and we get the juices flowing too. And this is the time of year, the playoffs. The players, the intensity goes up, and so it does with the referees too. So it's a fun time of year for the referees too.
Steve, like you said, the referees. I mean, you got to perform, and I looked at that game. You could have called a foul pretty much every play almost. I mean, so how does a referee you got to really, I guess, hold back a little bit because you got to let them play. You don't want to be the story.
Yeah, it's there's a fine line in the playoffs because for 82 games, players physically and mentally can't compete like that every night. They just can't do it mentally and physically. But that's what makes the playoffs so good is that every possession is contested. Every rebound is contested. Every shot's contested. So that makes it an incredibly intense game and challenging for the referee who then now has his concentration. As the intensity goes up, the referee's concentration must also meet that. And so there's that fine line between now letting him play, within the guidelines of the rules and what's illegal and what's marginal. And it might shift a little bit in the playoffs because you're going to allow that they are guarding so closely and contesting that you do maybe allow a little bit more bumping in the playoffs. But now you have to watch because if somebody does something illegally and gains possession of the ball, now you got to call a foul. So it's challenging, and you really walk that tightrope.
We're talking with Steve Javie, former NBA referee, worked over 190 playoff games, and of course you worked 18 NBA finals, so you know what it takes. Talk to us a little bit, Steve, about how a referee prepares for the playoffs. I mean, he's got to prepare just like the players, I guess.
No, you do, and especially when you're talking about, say, a 7-game series. It's one thing during the course of the year where you go into, say, Portland and you have one game and you're out. Now you get into a series, and there's a series mentality. So if I'm going to be working game 2 or 3 of a certain series, I'm watching those games prior to my game. So you see what kind of matchups, you see what kind of substitutions are coming in, if anybody's going to be a disruptor. All these things go into the preparation of a game in the playoffs because they have, in most cases, except for game 1, there have been previous games that will show you how the teams are reacting to certain situations, how players are reacting to each other. When you look at the Philly-Miami series, obviously, right away, my mind goes to, okay, who are the disruptors out here? Who do I really have to control in this game in order to make it, a game that people can play within the guidelines of the rules? So there is a lot of preparation for the playoffs, but like I said, it's a fun time to prepare. Steve, how about that word, Billy? Oh my gosh.
Hey, Steve, do you go talk to the players before the game and address the team or you talk to some of the guys that you think you might have a problem with?
It just depends on the situation, Billy. Before the game, there really isn't much conversation. You have a captain's meeting, unless there's something that really happened in the game prior to that where the league might even say, hey, I want you to mention to the captains this, and this. 9 times out of 10, you don't say a word. But, during the course of the game, there's a lot more conversation than people realize with referees and players. Well, as play is going on, whether it be in a low post, whether it be out front, you're talking. I always talk to the players about that's too much, knock it off, whatever it may be, just to try to, let them know where you stand before you blow the whistle.
Speaking of talking to players, Steve, during the game, we see a lot of cutaways during games to the players going up to the official, whether it's after a call, whether it's coming in or out of bounds plays. Talk about the different types of conversations that you as a referee would have with the players over the course of the game? Because sometimes it looks like some of those conversations are cordial. Sometimes those conversations look pretty heated. So,
yeah, and you're right on with that too. You get both. Now I'll give you an example. Like last night in the Indiana Cleveland game, right before half, Victor Oladipo gets fouled on the jump shot. Tough play because you're watching different things. Angles, of course, are so important, and the referee doesn't blow the whistle, which he should have. And they showed it even on ESPN. They came out at halftime where the referee was talking to Oladipo afterwards, and both in a very professional manner. And that's how you try to handle it as a player. Now, I know during the course of a game things get heated, and players, can get, let's say a few things they wish they didn't say. But if any player comes to an official in a professional manner, they're going to get that in return too. But you do see some players that, they come up with that look on their face, or you can read their lips sometimes. And that's when an official has to decide, now, am I going to walk away here, or am I going to participate in it, or am I going to give him a technical foul?
Steve, Billy mentioned earlier about the physicality in the Sixers game. Obviously, there were 2 double technicals on Thursday night. Also, the incident with Justin Winslow doing the I didn't step on his mask, but he did step on Joel Embiid's mask kind of situation. And then last night we saw in the Raptors-Wizards game, I mean, there was literally almost a straight-out fight going on. As an official, how are you guys handling those situations? Because I understand it's a delicate balance between trying to keep the game going but trying to get the players under control.
Yeah, and that's one thing, as I was saying to Billy, that I really missed. I really enjoy being in the middle of that, of challenging yourself to be able to try to control the game, and at the same time not overtake the game. There's a skill and there's a craft. There's a lot more than just getting the block charge right. And as a matter of fact, if I was ever involved in a game like the Wizards in Toronto or Sixers, I really wouldn't care if my judgment's going to be okay. Now it's a matter of forget that. Let's see who the guys are that are messing this game up. I really believe personally that in the Sixer-Miami game, there could have been more technical fouls, and maybe should have been. And this is how, and the players have to react to the officials then. And I know last night and I didn't quite see the whole game because I was on ESPN, the regular channel, not 2, but watching a little bit when I could from the replay center of the Toronto-Washington game. I mean, after some of the things with Morris and a couple of the guys in Beal, right there, guess what? Now an official has to jump in and take charge. When they sit there and say an official shouldn't be noticed, well, in a game like that, an official should be noticed, because if he doesn't step in to the heat in that kitchen, then he's going to lose all credibility. He's going to lose the game itself. So in certain games, there should be more. You were saying about 4 or 5 or 6 technical fouls. There probably should have been 8 or 10 or 12 technical fouls, and then maybe, just maybe, the players would get the message.
During your officiating career, did you ever have an incident like the Justice Winslow stepping on Embiid's mask kind of incident? Was there ever a weird situation that you had to deal with that almost made you kind of look back like that just really happened?
Wait a second, you forget, I refereed Dennis Rodman. So just about, holy moly, just about every night you never knew what to expect with that man.
Really?
I was there that night that he kicked the photographer in the groin on the baseline. No, you sit there and you go, what the heck just happened? I mean, there are plenty of situations or plenty of nights you sit there and go, I don't believe what I just saw. The old Vin Scully, I guess, Holy moly. No, but it's, Dennis Rodman, I could probably write a book just about him alone.
We're talking with Steve Javie, former NBA official. He's now working with ESPN as a rules analyst. And Steve, how impressed are you with Joel Embiid?
Yeah, Billy, it's incredible. You just hope that the kid stays healthy, not just for the sake of the hometown Sixers and so on, but for the league. He's so good for the league, because even when I'm looking at ESPN this morning.com, reading a few things about what went on in the Miami game, even the kid Justin Winslow says, we're just talking trash. We love each other and fine. He has a way. It's really funny. I guess his personality is such that even though he talks trash to these guys, they seem to love him.
Yeah, he does it in a way that it's almost becoming to, you know what I mean? It's kind of cool to see that.
Well, he does it in a way like me and you would do it to each other, and not hold it against. So it's not like if he does this, I hate him and all this stuff. No, he does it in a way, and then of course his play speaks for itself. He's only played basically one full season, but the amount of games he's played in the NBA, and he shows such talent and ability. So I mean, he is so good for the league. he's so good, obviously, for the Sixers that you just pray that he stays healthy. And you know what? He's got a great mindset. He wants to play.
I tell you what, I just wish the Flyers had that burning desire, like that competitive. I don't see any like leadership like you do out of Joel Embiid, even Ben Simmons. I mean, he takes over the whole team, changes the whole complexion when he's out on the court.
Yeah, it's amazing when you look at the two of them together. They're like totally opposite because Ben Simmons isn't that guy. It doesn't seem to me anyway. He seems very quiet, but he's a quiet, aggressive person, and he's so competitive, but he doesn't go out there and trash talk or on Twitter.
No, but I'll tell you what, Steve, though, he's slam dunked in people's face and come out with his chest pumped out a couple times, and he hasn't shied away from the rough stuff either, Steve.
Oh no, that's my point, because he sometimes looks like he's so quiet, but the man is so competitive and so talented. It's a great combination with him and Embiid. Steve,
we really appreciate you taking time out. I can't wait till we run into each other down here in Ocean City. And your lovely wife, Mary Ellen, tell her we said hi. We like watching you as a rules analyst for ESPN, and you look pretty good on the TV, guy.
Barry, thanks an awful lot. It's always a pleasure to talk with you, my friend.
All right, Steve Javie, thank you so much there on the Toms River Volkswagen Sports Hotline.